Okay, so I'm going to hand the microphone over to Jeff and Luke here in a second. Just wanted to say thanks, guys, for putting time and energy into getting a presentation ready. And this is us as a coaching team trying to do something special for our World Championship qualified athletes. It's nice to get a little bit of a head start as far as learning and race reconnaissance so that when you get there on the ground, there's less of a sort of a learning curve, and you have a bit of a familiarization and maybe even time to process what we learned tonight and start to formulate by yourself or with your coach a bit more of a refined pacing strategy and technical strategy to get the most out of that race, whatever it means or whatever that may be mean or be for you. So without further ado, I'll just pass it on over to you, Jeff, and you can take the control.
Yeah, thanks, Lance. And I will be tag teaming with Luke Tasker, who's one of our new coaches at Life Sport. What, for how long now, Luke? How long you been with us?
Oh, not long at all. 2 months?
2 months
Three
now.
months?
All right. Well,
Mhm.
I've had a chance to know Luke for a little bit longer than that because he was a guest on the Trihawk podcast back in the spring and got to know a little bit about his past as a pentathlete. Geez, I almost said heptathlete.
Yeah.
Pentathlete in the Olympic or in the Olympic program, anyways. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen,
Yeah.
and Luke and I will pass things back and forth, and we will give you our best kind of thoughts about this upcoming race because it's going to be a doozy. So let's see if that's working. Are you seeing my slide, Lance? Yes. Okay, great. So that is a look at some part of Marbella. I have no idea what part, but it was very pretty. So I figured it was a good slide to begin with. My wife and I leave on Sunday. We will be arriving there Monday. I understand Luke is going earlier, and I know there's a bunch of people that are already over there. I'm quite jealous. I have to keep working, but I'm looking forward to getting over there, and I'm sure many people are. It is going to be a really, I think, beautiful place to have a race, and it's going to be a very world championship worthy course. The weather right now is looking pretty temperate. It's there is rain in the forecast, but the rain tends to be quite sporadic. It doesn't rain like the whole day. It tends to rain for just a couple hours here and there. So keep an eye on the forecast as we get closer to the end of this week. I think we'll start to get a little more certainty on that. Obviously, can't do anything about the weather. You just adapt to whatever it's going to be, but just in terms of knowing what to pack if you're leaving later, like I am. First and foremost, I think it's important to note that when you go to a World Championships, you don't have anything really to do unless you're someone like, say, Luke, who might actually be trying to get onto the podium there. If you're someone like me, you are just content to be there and then go and execute and have a great day. Because the reality is that getting to the World Championships is in and of itself an amazing feat. And it's the combination of a lot of hard work and executing on that day is really, really something to strive to achieve. And it is always an amazing event. This is I think it's my ninth time going to 70.3 Worlds. And every time I go,
Nice.
I am always impressed with the way it's put on. I am always impressed with the quality of the event. And it's a great show. It's really something that's fun to be a part of. I've been to Kona a couple of times. Kona certainly at a little bit of a different level, but the 70.3 Worlds is really awesome. Now, with that said, there can be pressure. And it's easy to kind of get sucked into all of that. So I think it's really important to take stock of who you are as an athlete and sort of understand and recognize that going in, because the reality is you are going to be surrounded by the best of the best. There's a reason it's a world championships. The people who are there have earned their slot just like you have, and you need to remember that you belong there just like the people you're going to see. But everybody you're going to see is going to look amazing. They're going to have the best equipment, and some of the people you meet are going to be just a little bit over the top. So it's important to just, know how you fit into that. If you're one of those people who gets sort of frazzled by that stuff, it's really easy to step away. You just go in, you get your packet, you do all the minimal things you need to do, and then you stay to yourself and you just have fun being a tourist. Or if you're someone like me, I love being part of that. I love being in the mix. I love seeing all these people. I tend to meet a lot of the same folks that I've seen at other races, and I enjoy it. And so I like to be in the middle of all of that. So know what your personality is and take, make sure you use that to your advantage. Luke, do you have anything you want to add to that going in as somebody who's sort of a top age group competitor?
No, I think everything you said is spot on, right? It's just know that you've either done the training and you've already made like the hard part is done. The actual race is a lot easier than all the training you've probably done for the last 6, 9, whatever, how many months it is. So it's just time to enjoy it, really.
Yeah, yeah, I really think that's the most important thing is like take the stress off yourself and recognize that this is something you've earned and you want to have fun. Now, with that said, there's a lot going on. The athlete guide is now out. I don't know why it took so long, but it's finally out. So make sure that you look on the website, check the event schedule. I'm going to go over some of the things here in a few minutes, and look at the athlete guide. Really, really pay attention. You have a long flight coming up. That's a good time to really go over the athlete guide. And one of the things the athlete guides for the world championships in particular do really well is they describe the flow through the transitions, through the packet pickup, things like that. And the reason that's important is because unlike your usual race where you show up and, you walk into the expo and it's pretty obvious where to go and it's pretty obvious how everything works. And then you go to transition and it's pretty obvious. These races are much bigger. And like if you're the women, you're going to be doing your race. And when you are coming back to go out on the run, there's going to be men coming in and bringing their bikes in. So there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of moving parts. So pay attention to the athlete guide that gives you the flow diagrams about how things work. It's really helpful. There are some highlights that you may want to consider. These are things that some of these things you need to sign up in advance, like the fun run. But then there's practice swims. I haven't seen any formal scheduled practice swims. I assume the beach is just going to be open and you can just go down and swim. There is the Parade of Nations, which I'll show in a second, the welcome banquet, and definitely the athlete briefings. You want to make sure you go to this is not like a normal race. I can tell you that every worlds I've been to, there's been some little kernel of information that they've given at the athlete briefing that has not been anywhere else, and it's turned out to be pretty useful. So definitely make sure you schedule the athlete briefing as part of and the athlete briefing takes place generally at the end of at the welcome banquet. I have not made it a habit of going to eat at the welcome banquet, except in France, where I figured the food would be good. And in the end, it's never that good because you know what? The thing is like they're making food for like thousands of people. So it's up to you if you want to go. It is a fun thing though, and you get to see all the pros. They'll come and talk, and it is a fun thing to do once. Once you've done it once, the athlete briefing is really the highlight of that evening. So I picked a few things from the schedule of events that I wanted to highlight. The first of these I've sort of circled in red down at the bottom here, and that's the Parade of Nations that takes place on Wednesday afternoon. So if you are going to be there and that's something you're interested in, I've done this a couple of times. It is a lot of fun. It's especially fun if you're like in a foreign country like this. Like last year in New Zealand, being part of the Canadian contingent was fun because it was a pretty small contingent and everybody was excited to meet other Canadians. If you are are like if it's in Canada and like it's 1,000 Canadians, it's like it's still fun, but it's a little bit of a different vibe. When you're in Spain and it's going to be probably just a couple of hundred Canadians, it's going to be a pretty cool thing. So that is something that if you're interested, definitely avail yourself, and your friends and families can sort of be along the route, and it's a lot of fun to watch. So they'll have the staging at 2 to 3. The parade actually takes place 3 to 4:30. The only thing my quibble with it is it's a little bit early. I think that's probably because the clocks move forward this weekend, and so sunset is happening earlier now. So I think they had to kind of make it a little bit earlier, which is too bad because in the past it's been a little bit later. I know for myself we have something scheduled that day, and unfortunately we're going to miss it. I also wanted to point out a couple of other things here. The welcome banquet is on the Thursday. That is at 6:30 to 8:30, and usually there is an athlete briefing after that, although it looks here like they're doing the briefings in the morning. So look at that. You can actually separate the briefings from the banquet, which is pretty cool because in the past you had to go to the banquet for the briefing. So now they're doing the race briefings in the morning, noon for the English briefing. And I'll get to where all these places are in just a second. Then they have the fun run is on Friday morning. That's usually like, I haven't looked at it because I don't usually do it. I don't think it's, I think it's probably, have you looked, Luke? Did you check about what the fun run?
No, I'm not sure on
Yeah, I didn't
officially.
look.
I have no intent
I want to say
on
it's
that
going to
one.
be like a mile, but don't quote me on that. I don't think it's a 5K. I would be shocked if it was, but you never know. The big thing you need to pay attention to, of course, is athlete check-in is taking place basically starting on Wednesday, and you've really got to get it done by like Friday because Friday at noon is when the women need to start doing their bike and gear bag check-in. There will be no more athlete check-in starting on Friday afternoon. The women have to all be checked in. Men can still check in until 6 p.m. on Friday. On Saturday, the men start checking in their stuff at 3, and the women will be checking out 3:45. And then on Sunday, the men have to check out pretty late, 4:15. That is much later than usual. So I wonder if that will shift as the day goes on. All right, so here's kind of an overview, a lay of the land. So this is Marbella proper. I know this is where the actual um, Plaza de Antonio Banderas. I have no idea if this is the actor or someone else. I'm sure it's someone else. But this is where most of the stuff happens, like the banquet and the fun run and stuff like that. I can't remember if athlete check-in happens there. Let me look. Athlete
I think so, yeah.
check-in is yes, athlete check-in is at the beach. So this is the beach, and we're going to have a close-up in a second, but this is where athlete check-in will happen. I know that some of us are staying west or north. I'm staying in Nueva Andalucia. I know that Luke is actually staying very close down in here. So depending on where you are, I know a lot of it is pretty walking distance. Like I'm staying up around here, and it's about a 15-minute walk. Michelle was telling me today she's staying somewhere around here, and it's about a 20-minute walk. So a lot of it is pretty walkable. Just check when you get there, see what the best way is going to be for you to get places. Obviously, the more you can walk, the better. Um, and just make sure you time your, getting to and from race day. Anything you want to add here, Luke?
No, I think it's all pretty straightforward there.
All right, so here is a close up now of where things are happening, sort of in the central area. Again, this is Plaza de Antonio Banderas. This is where the welcome banquet is. This is where um, a lot of this is where Parade of Nations and stuff like that is going to be happening. And then this is the beach. The swim start happens at the far end of the beach. This is where like check-in and all of that is happening. T1 will actually be here, as you'll see on a map in a short while. T2 is actually up here. So you'll see all of these things coming up. All right, once you get to race day, like I was saying before, it's easy to get caught up in all the excitement, and certainly as the day begins, it will be exciting. It is a long kind of wait, depending on your age group. I'm going to show the age group waves in a second, but it is a long wait depending on where you are. It's a big race. It takes a long time. It is it's a self-seeded swim start, just like in any other race, but the self-seeding goes in your age group. So they will start like 5 or 10 people at a time, but they do that within your age group. So there'll be signs about, where you think you're going to swim, and just like in a regular race, but you're gonna be, like I said, in pens by your age group, and then you line up in there as you're self-seeded. Um, for anybody who might have been to Kona, where they also do age group starts, but in Kona, it's a mass start by age group. Here it is not. Here it is self-seeded age group starts. Let's see. So I wrote as waves not yet announced, but I found out today they have been. So I'll have that in a second. Um, the transition closes at 8, so you will have to get everything done in transition before 8, but as you will see, like my wave doesn't start until 9:15 or something. So you're going to have to figure out what to do between when transition closes and when you actually start your race. I had that problem in Kona too. I was like, I had to be out of transition by like some ungodly hour, and I couldn't start my race for like another 2.5 hours, and it was not good. This is at least a little bit shorter. Um, it should be wetsuit legal. I will be shocked if it's not. I haven't seen anything about water temperatures, but the average water temperature to Mediterranean at this time of year is in sort of high 60s, 70s. So should be wetsuit legal. Keep an eye on that. It will be cool on the bike starting in the morning. The temperatures tend to be kind of mid-teens in the Celsius, and then we'll warm up to maybe 20-ish by the time the bike is done, which is great because we're going to be doing a lot of climbing, as you know. The run should be pretty perfect running temperatures, depending on how late you start. But the highs of the days have only been around 25 for most days, and that usually happens later in the afternoon. Really take your time to enjoy the atmosphere there. I don't know what it's going to be like out on the bike course. I imagine it probably won't be all that well supported in terms of crowds, but certainly the run, as you will see, the run is right in the middle of town, and it's going to be awesome. Uh, if you are racing on Saturday, I certainly hope you will be out there Sunday. You will have no excuse because we will be out there on Saturday to support you guys. So definitely, just make sure you're not like showing us how much beer you're drinking on Sunday because it will be, not much fun for us. All right, here are the age groups. For women, you can see that it starts as early as 7:52 for the physically challenged hand cycle groups, 8 o'clock for the 40 to 44, and it can go as late as 9:30 for 45, 49. Always a pain in the butt, but the biggest pain in the butt is for the poor 60 to 64. Is that Michelle's age group? It is, eh? So my age group is similar, as you'll see in the men, but it's always a pain to be in these age groups because for some reason they stack it so that it gets progressively faster and you end up getting completely swamped. But they do give you a little bit of a buffer with a good amount of time to start in there just because it takes a while for the age groups to get going, given the amount of time. And then for the men, kind of similar looking for me in the 55-59 starting at 9:15, and then the last start is as late as 10 o'clock, which is pretty late to start a 70.3, especially if you had to leave transition at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
Any tips for people for how to spend that time wisely?
I think if we're going over some of Juliet's functional strength is probably what she would tell me to say to you here. But yeah, it's obviously staying warm, trying to get off your legs, and not expending any energy that you don't have to, and then have some carbs and stuff with you to
Yeah,
take
I think
for the race
that's a
because it's going to
really
be a
important
while.
point. Yeah, that's a really important point is make sure you bring calories with you because if you do have like, you eat breakfast at 6-ish and you're not going to start racing until 9, that's a long way to go. So you're definitely going to want to have something, a gel or some chews or something to be able to take while you're waiting. And I know that getting off your feet is sometimes easier said than done because of the way they have the
Yeah.
corral sort of, but if you're able to, you definitely want to try. All right, let's move to the important stuff, which is really the race course itself. So, um, Luke, why don't you give us your sort of thoughts on the swim course?
Yeah, so it doesn't look too technical. It's there's no long straights, which I guess is the first point. So there's going to be some definite pinches at the all the turn buoys because it's only 300 meters to the first turn buoy and then only a further 340 and then only 200. There's only one long one, which is again only 500 meters. So it's going to get quite congested there, especially with the way they're doing the age groups. Like Jeff said, there's going to be some of the faster age groups are going later on in the day. So just be prepared for that. But it should be super easy to sight. There should be no navigational issues. That's one benefit of having it like this. But it's just important to be aware that you could have some congestion here and try and make your space as much as you can.
I think when I looked at this course, two things sort of came to me right away. The first is I don't love turns, not so much because I don't love turning in the water, but mostly because I know what happens at those turns. It stacks up, as Luke mentioned.
Yeah.
And when you have as many turns as you do, especially with alternating left-right, it really is going to stack up. So if you don't love contact, you have to kind of be prepared. And what I would do is I would kind of memorize in your mind what this looks like. So just think, it's going to be left, right, 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 left. That, if you could just remember that. And the other thing I'm going to remember is I last year in New Zealand, it was basically a straight swim. So it was like we had to swim for like I think it was 1,200 meters straight. And mentally, I found that very exhausting. Even though we all swim the same distance and we're all used to swimming that distance, when you're just swimming in a straight line for that long, it's just like at one point you're like, oh my God, when is this going to end? When am I going to get to a turn buoy? And here you're at turn buoys like every 4 minutes or every 5 minutes. It's going to be great. So I've already started. I've told myself I'm just going to commit this to memory. It's 300 left, 350 right, 220 right, 520 right, 340 left, and then done. And I'm gonna sort of write it down and commit it to memory because it's really nice knowing that the longest you're gonna have to swim is maybe 8 minutes, depending on how fast you swim 500. So between 8 and 10 minutes to swim 500, and that's without a turn. I mean, that really helps break the swim up and make the swim, I think, much more enjoyable. So despite the fact that there could be opportunities for contact at the turns, I think on balance, it's going to actually be a pretty enjoyable swim.
Could
There's
I say
no
something
like
there, Jeff?
halfway point in any of this, right? Even though there's yellow and orange buoys there.
There usually is like a distinction where you hit around 900 meters or so, the
Yeah, yeah.
buoys will change colors. So
I get the
that's
sense
what's shown here.
I get the sense here you got green buoys for left turns and yellow buoys, like big yellow buoys or orange buoys for right turns. And then they
Yeah, we'll
usually
see if
have
they do that. If they do that, that would be helpful.
because it kind of looks like that in this picture. So just be aware of that during
Yeah,
your
yeah.
um
And
and
I
then
would
usually
Yeah.
imagine that's probably explained in the athlete guide, or they'll say it in the.
and
And I'm
then
sorry, I
typically
didn't get a chance to read the athlete guide because I just saw that it came out today.
I mean, it's a little tricky. On one hand, you have the buoys on your right, and the other hand, you have them on your left, right?
Yeah,
Depending on where you are.
depending on where you are.
That is
And
usually the
that is a
buoy
little unusual. That
yeah,
is a little
usually the
unusual.
other buoys, the ones in between are all every 100 meters too.
Yeah,
yeah, they are. So the second right turn is your halfway point,
Yeah.
and then they actually you can
Not
even see on
exactly
here it turns
halfway,
to a
but
bit of a darker orange.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's.
but it's
I've,
it's
I've never
about
been
there.
in a race where you have buoys on the left, on the right, depending on what leg you're on. Usually, it's always on your left, or
now I
Well,
would
usually
they're
say,
right.
good.
Alain, I would say this is the diagram. I don't know that it's
Yeah.
actually going to be like
Okay,
this.
because that is
So
that is
yeah,
weird to me.
yeah, we'll see if it actually turns out like this. It may
Yeah,
end up that they say keep the buoys on your right the whole way, which
yeah,
wouldn't
yeah, yeah.
surprise me, except for those left-hand turns.
Right.
Yeah, I mean um what's it? The one in La Quinta was like that because it's kind of like a W. So you go on one side of the buoys for some, and the other side of the buoys for the other. Just
Yeah, it's true. La Quinta did make that W. I'm trying to
yeah.
remember. You had to swim through a double, you had to swim through an arch at one point, and when you swam through the arch, that's when the buoys changed sides. Yeah.
I mean, really, you're just swimming between the corner buoys. That's the important thing.
Yeah.
I think you just swim at the buoys, but then it gets even more crowded. Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. This is why I think it'll be once they get things laid out, one and definitely a reason to go to the race briefing where
Yeah.
I'm sure this will be explained in more detail. So transition, as I mentioned, is on the beach, and T1 is here, T2 is here. So you'll see in a second on the map, you'll see a little bit closer. But and as I said in the athlete guide, it gives very good sort of flow diagram of coming into T1 and how it looks in terms of how you move and then how you get out on the bike and how you start your bike right here. I think everybody knows by now that there's no sugarcoating this. It's going to be a brutal bike ride. I mean, it just is what it is. And it's going to be the same for everybody. This is not going to be a PR bike course. Uh, no. And it's going to be all about keeping your effort measured. I mean, that's really all you can do for this because I think what's going to happen here, especially in the men's race, I don't know what the women are going to be like, but you're going to have a lot of heroes on the men's race who are going to be going full Tadej Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard. And I can tell you that there's one ex Tour de France pro who actually is in my age group and should be riding that way. Everybody else should not. Everybody else should be riding for the run because the only thing you have to be doing on this bike is making sure that your legs are going to be able to carry you on the run because this is going to be a very hard bike course. So you're going to want to really measure your effort. You're going to want to spin as easily as you can on all the climbs. It's going to be keeping the cadence up by being in the easiest gear you can. If the easiest gear means you're not spinning so much, that's okay. Just keep your watts under control the whole time. Try and get out on the course and preview what the descents look like because obviously you can make up time on the descents. And if you're a good descender and you're comfortable descending around other people, then making sure that the descents look good. And Luke, you were saying you had heard something about the descents. You want to share what you heard?
Yes. So I've actually got some better insight because so Maya, who's also a live sport athlete, she's already there and she rode the course just the other day. Um, so all the climbs are like the technical climbs. So thankfully we don't have to come down those, but it's not very steep. So the average gradient for the second climb especially is only 2.3%, but it's over 25 kilometers. So it's a long grind. And she said it just, you come around one of the hairpins and then it just goes on forever and doesn't stop. It's over 20 kilometers of like 3%, just gradual. And it just like feels like a lot. So it's just don't cook yourself there. But all of the roads are pretty good.
And can
She
I
said that
interrupt for a second? When you say the second climb, you're talking about like from here to here?
uh, no, sorry, that
This one.
from,
This one.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but so that they're actually you yeah, so that one's a little over 25 kilometers. I think it's 25.6K like straight up. But the average gradient with a couple very small downhills was 2.3%. So it's nothing nothing crazy, but it's enough to take some sting out of your legs. And if you push too hard, you're gonna feel it, like Jeff said, on the run. But yeah, so all the asphalt's really smooth. Uh, Um, the descents are all also not technical, so it's you can definitely be in your bars on your extensions. I mean by that, and you can not obviously freewheel, but it's a pretty nice little, let's say, recovery from mile like 70 back down to the end of the race there. not mile,
Kilometer
sorry,
70 or
kilometer.
mile 70?
Kilometer.
Kilometer
Kilometer
70.
70, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and so it's in your bars all the way. She said it was a little bit sketchy just on the test ride because there's cars on the road, and it's a straight cliff, so you're just riding next to a small wall, and then it's just a huge drop off. So
Oof.
don't push it too much, but it's not a technical descent whatsoever. Like easily in your bars, which is good. And that's the same for both of the descents.
Now,
The
all of my
first,
experiences in races in Europe, they close the roads. So
yes,
then we should be able to ride away from that wall and give yourself space so you'll be able to feel more comfortable going a little bit faster.
yeah,
I rode this on Ruvi, and between miles 5 and 10, it was pretty brutal. It was 6 to 9% gradient. I think there was one that went up to 16%. I mean, it was one point it was just like it was hard.
So there are
Uh,
yeah,
definitely, I think the hard parts are, like you said, the
yeah,
first 10
five to
miles, and
ten. It's
then there's
from
like
miles
a little
five.
bit of a wall here.
Yeah, I wasn't short though.
There's a couple of short little punchy climbs along the way, but early is where it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
And then like Luke was saying, I heard the same thing, and I've sort of spent some time looking at the ride on Map My Ride because they gave us the GPX for that, and it does look like it's not too bad. And I spent last weekend riding here, and I rode a 54 mile, 6,000 feet of elevation gain ride, and I rode steeper pitches than what we're going to see next week. And so I feel like I understand how they're going to get the elevation in, and it doesn't necessarily have to be horrendous. You just have to keep spinning. I think that is
yeah.
just hear Dory in your mind. Keep spinning, just keep spinning.
I found it hard to not.
Can I add
I
a
found it
comment,
hard
Jeff?
not to get into. I mean, if I can jump in with that, I found it hard not to get into zone four, if not zone five. I did this like three times, and at the first 5 to 10 miles, I was I
When
was
it's really steep, it's
I
hard. You
was I
have to
was
do it.
spiking, and I'm like, I can't go much slower, and my heart rate's way up there. I don't know what to do.
Go ahead, Lance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just so with these revelations, first of all, sometimes I like courses that have a couple of kickers early. St. George is like that as well, because I find it actually really helps pull blood from your upper body and swim down your legs, and it activates you and gets you going a little bit earlier. So if you could try and think of it in that context as that's your warm up for the bike, use those hills as your warm up to get start recruiting fibers and get things going. And then, if it's an extended, steady grade, the advantage of that, you could be, oh, it's going to be a grind, whatever. It makes it easier actually to stay within a power range
yeah.
as opposed to like up and down and up and down where you're burning matches, burning matches, burning matches. I like the sound of that. I think it's an opportunity just to go after your numbers. And remember, on a slightly uphill grade, you might add three or not 15, 20%, but 3 or 5% to your sort of power target because the power does come just a little bit easier on the uphill grade. But and then the other thing I would say too is, for those of you who've been riding the trainer a little bit, and like that's a really good image on those steady climbs too, where you're just patient, pressing the pedals, staying on top of your cadence. So try and frame it as to, okay, this is what we're up against. So how can I use my skills and my experiences to maximize my mastery of this bike course?
Yeah, and I would also say, to add to what Lance was saying, the nice thing about these long grinding climbs, again, I have a lot of these in Colorado. Ours are steeper. Ours are like 5 or 6% for like 30 miles, which really gets on your nerves. But 2 to 3% for 25 miles, that's going to be a piece of cake. It's going to be annoying, but it's going to be much easier. The nice thing about those is you can fuel because you're not like out of
Yes.
breath because it's not so steep that you are like killing yourself to get up. You generally, I personally, I usually can't stay an arrow at 2-3% because I feel like I
Right.
need to open up my hip angle. I feel like I'm generally not moving fast enough on a 2 or 3% grade. If I'm moving fast enough, then I'm an arrow and it's easy for me to fuel. But even if I'm sitting up, getting my fuel in while I'm on that kind of grade, I find very easy.
Yeah, I think it's almost going to be harder to fuel on the last sort of 15 kilometers when you're going 70 kilometers an hour in your extensions, and that's when you have to remember to. It's still worthwhile getting fuel in before setting off on the run, even if you have to sit up for a second or put the brakes on a little bit. You just need to make sure to remember, even though you're going super fast and maybe a little bit less stable, you still want to be getting fuel in.
Yeah.
I
And
will say on the Ruby,
importantly, when you're descending, your heart rate's going to come down a little bit too. So
Yeah,
there's a potential absorption cycle in that last 15 kilometers to top up your legs before you hit the run. So to Luke's point, make sure you fuel.
Yeah.
I was gonna say on the Ruby course, the downhill is not technical. Like in Nice, it was little switchbacks
yeah,
and you know little towns you're going through. This is almost like almost looks like a highway. It actually reminded me of like a little Lake Placid downhill type section.
It is a highway. It's totally
Yeah.
a highway. It's A355. It's just like all the way down on that highway.
Yeah. So in that regard, it's not technical. That wasn't bad, but that first 5 to 10 was the hardest part. The rest, I agree with you. It was a little more manageable,
yeah. Maya was saying the winds were picking up on the descents, so it's worth thinking about. I don't know if everybody has wheel options or just to be ready for that. It could get a bit windy there, and it might blow you around a little bit.
Yeah. And I will say, like, again, I did this long ride last week, or last week, it was just Friday. I did this long ride on Friday where it was like a ton of elevation. And you know, again, I live somewhere where I can do this all the time, and I love doing those kinds of rides. So it's what I'm reminded of every time I do them is how much I enjoy them because of how beautiful it is. Because when you get to climb like this, it means you get to see some pretty amazing things. And the World Championships that I have done that have been hard were Austria in 2014 and Nice in 2019. Both of them had a ton of climbing, and both of them were like the most spectacular bike courses because we got to climb into these amazing mountain places and just have these incredible views. And so it just makes the race so much more enjoyable. Everybody's going to finish. I'm not worried about that. So just be mindful of you know, make sure you've spoken to your coach, make sure you have an understanding of where you should be for your power numbers. Do your best to keep them there. Keep fueling. Make sure you remember in those last 20K to, even though you're not generating power, spin. Don't just coast with your legs static because you
Yeah.
want to keep the blood flowing to your legs and be ready for that run. Does anybody have any questions about the bike before we move on? All right. I am really excited about this run course. And the reason I'm excited about this run course is because for spectators, it's going to be amazing. And, you know, my wife's going to be there. My friends are going to be there. Uh, I have some friends who are racing on Saturday, so they're going to be there. And I mean, you just look like if somebody is watching you come in on the bike to T2, they could see you on the run, like they could see you on this out and back. They could see you as you go out onto the pier and come back. They could see, I mean, it's so easy to move around just a couple of blocks and see you so many different places on this run course. It is a very spectator friendly run course. And I think it's going to be a really fun run course to do. The one kind of negative, the only negative about this run course is the number of U turns. So,
Yeah, six
yeah,
U-turns
Luke,
plus
do
a
you want
couple
to
of
give
switchbacks.
do you want to give your tips on how to manage these U-turns because U-turns can be a killer, not just for speed, but they can really hurt your legs. Well, how do you handle U-turns?
Yeah, yeah, they can take some punch out, but if you just, I like shorten my stride a little bit in and out, just try and get the legs driving, but don't worry about getting, back up to speed too quickly, and don't go in really fast and then go from race pace down to like turning pace in 2 strides, because that really
Yeah,
puts in some stress on the quads, especially. So
yeah, it's
you
that
just take a
hard
couple
braking.
strides.
Yeah.
Yeah, slow down gradually. It's going to probably get congested there, especially with the second lap. Um,
And the
and
three U-turns all take place. Um,
Yeah,
pretty
two
close
on
together.
two on the
Yeah.
breakwater, and then one just
And one
coming
right
out.
there. So you'll hit them pretty quickly. I believe you hit them at the beginning. Yeah, no, you hit them at the end of the lap. So you basically you go.
Yeah,
Oh no,
it's the last
you
part of the
hit
lap.
one U-turn, you hit one U-turn, and then you're out on the whole course, and then you hit the two U-turns at the end. So yeah, but I think it's gonna be nice. The two hills, and I mean they look gigantic, but that's because there's no elevation gain the whole time.
Yeah,
Basically,
17 meters.
there's 277 feet of elevation, and you're getting 150 of that in these two hills, and they basically take place in this park. So presumably there is some kind of like, lookout or something that you're going to run up and over and then back down. So just be ready. It's going to hurt a lot more on the second lap than it will on the first. So be ready for that and just take it as it goes. I think the important thing is to remember, be mindful that you are going to have a lot of fatigue accumulated in your legs. And, if you're feeling really tired, get a gel. Just get in some
Yeah.
calories because that's the key to sort of rejuvenating yourself and getting your legs feeling a little bit more springier again. Luke, you want to add anything there?
Just the only other thing I've seen is so some sections here along the promenade it's like a hard packed gravel. It doesn't look, it's not really gravel, but it's not asphalt. So it's something to think about. It's not, you're not running on road there. It is like a trail, but it looks very hard packed. Um,
And I don't know if this is a beach finish.
I
It
believe it's going to be like they're going to build out on the beach, so you won't be running on sand,
Okay, I was
from
gonna
from
say
what I gather.
because the one beach finish I've done, which is Santa Cruz, it's awful. Like
Yeah.
it's only like Santa Cruz, you're only running for about like 50 feet on the beach, but it feels like it's a mile because
Oh,
you
that's
come
the
out,
worst.
it's like the last, you turn the corner, you get onto this like deep sand, and you're like, oh my God, no, make it stop.
Yeah.
So, um, so yeah, if they build something out on the beach, that'll be great. I think this is gonna be a great run course. I really enjoy it. I know sometimes it hurts like on the run and it's hard to enjoy, but I got to tell you, I think there's going to be a ton of people out there. And every 70.3 Worlds I've done, the run is so much fun because there is just so many people cheering all along. It's just incredible. It's a lot of fun. And I just want to remind everybody that this is just an amazing adventure you're on and an amazing day. And just enjoy because I can remember every single finish of every Worlds that I've done. I cherish them all. They are, they're so much fun. They are just like all of these races are huge accomplishments. That little challenge coin that you've had in your wherever you've kept it for the last how long? I mean, I've had mine since September of last year. So, yeah, there it is. There you go. You've been keeping it for this. So, enjoy and it's a great experience. I am excited for you all. Remember that we will be meeting up on Friday morning, so we'll keep in touch by WhatsApp. Hopefully you will all have internet, so we will I tried to actually book space in that place, but they have never gotten back to me. So once I get on the ground, I will go over there and I will try again to book some space, and I'll keep you guys posted what I find out. And with that,
What time Friday? Sorry, I might have missed. Do we know?
yeah, we do know, except I don't remember. Are you
Because
in the WhatsApp group?
I believe I am. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll send more information. I can't remember what we said, but an email went out about it, and I will double check and get back to you.
Yeah.
Does anybody have questions?
Okay, I have one.
Yeah.
So I'm newer to climbing. So I'm super excited about this. but as far as carrying nutrition, I do have the high carb tailwind, but just thinking about like each bottle is 2 pounds, right? And so thinking about, I normally carry 3, but I was thinking about carrying 2 and then just picking up along the way because they don't have gross mortal. They actually have something that's palatable.
Precision.
Do you, I know Jeff, you said that you drink all of your nutrition for the most
Yeah.
part. Any thoughts? And I haven't talked to Juliet's my coach. I haven't talked to her about this at all, but if anyone wants to weigh in on what they're going to do, or if you're making any changes because of the climb, or if you're just going to do what you typically do, I'd love your thoughts on that.
Sure. I weigh 165 pounds. So carrying an extra, pound or 2 of my nutrition is not going to make the difference. And to me, having what I know works and what I have had success with is more important than And let's face it, after an hour, I've drunk. A
Sure.
full
Yeah.
bottle, and so it's in me, and hope I've probably sweated out some of it. So, yeah, I use what I'm comfortable with. I am completely self-sufficient on the bike. I have 3 bottles. I know I won't need anything else. I usually will pick, depending on the temperature. This bike is probably going to take
Yeah.
longer.
I was going to say it's going to take me longer, so I'm going to need
Yeah,
more
no,
than
I mean, and
usual.
I carry 3 bottles because normally I'm like a 230 or below biker. I am counting on this being 330. So
Sure.
that
Yeah.
means I'm going to have to supplement my calories, which I'm planning on doing with solids.
Okay.
And yeah, so
Okay. Cool.
that's how I'm approaching it.
That's great. Thank you.
Luke, would you
Yes, I'm pretty similar. I carry 3 bottles as well, and my thought was that I'll have finished my first bottle pretty close, like to the start of the main part of the climb. So you can just, I'm thinking, take my first bottle pretty quickly post swim, play catch up, and then ditch one
Hmm.
bottle at an aid station, and then maybe run with 2 for the main part of the climb because there's an aid station. Where is it? At the top after the very steep part.
Hmm.
So do the steep part with just my 2 bottles and then grab another one at the aid station there because it should be like a slow moving section through the aid station as well. It's not one of these aid stations where you have to slow down a bunch to be able to grab it. So I think there's plenty of time to get off, get out of the water onto the bike and get one of my bottles down pre uh, climb. But
Pretty big climb.
like Jeff
Yeah.
said, if at the end of the day, I would rather have my nutrition that I trust, even though I actually use precision. So there's precision on course, but it's just nice to have your exact quantities. You know what you've got then, and you're not taking any risks.
And where do you live, Holly?
I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina.
So do you ever go out and ride
Yeah,
the
actually, I just went to the Blue Ridge Parkway over the
Yeah.
weekend and did a big climb there. And then I've been there's a mountain about 2 hours away called Pilot Mountain, and I've gone up and down that
Okay.
multiple.
So it's not like you're climbing
I've
a
done 5,000, so
Okay. Yeah.
it'll be my longest, it'll be my biggest ride yet, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm
Just
going to have
remember,
fun, so I'm not worried.
some basic tips about climbing. I'll just put this out here for people who are watching the recording later. Remember that, when you sit up, you're opening up your hip angle. And what I mean is you're opening up between your spine and like if this is your knee, that's, that's your body, right? So you're opening up as opposed to when you're arrow and your hip angle is narrower. So when you open up that hip angle, you're able to leverage your hip extensors and your hip flexors a little bit more to be able to climb a little bit stronger. Remember also climbing really uses your core. So you want to make sure you're not rocking too much. A lot of people tend, when they're new at climbing, they tend to rock a lot. And you really don't want to rock. You want to try and keep your upper body quiet and just really put the energy into the pedals. You want to be as much as possible pushing down on the pedals and not necessarily lifting up. And people always ask, when should I stand? That's a very personal sort of thing. You kind of have to figure that out for yourself when it's best. I will say standing is a useful way to kind of stretch out. It's a useful way to use different muscles, but when you stand, you definitely use more oxygen and more calories because you're using bigger muscles. Although it seems counterintuitive, it seems like, oh, I should be using my weight on the pedals, but you're actually using bigger muscles more forcefully. And so you tend to incur a bigger oxygen use and a bigger calorie use. So when you stand, unless you're someone like, the pros who can do it for like, forever, you should limit your standing to a period that stretches things out, or to when it's really steep, like Alain was talking about. Often what you can do when you stand is you can reduce your turnover, you can reduce your revolutions, and stand and spin more slowly so that you can get a little bit of a break. Anything you want to
I
add to
actually
that,
like
Luke?
to. I was just going to say sometimes I actually sit with my hands on top of my extensions. So instead of being in the extensions, my hands are on my pads, and I can sit really like almost vertical at that point. I have quite high bars, so it might not work for everybody, but it allows me to sit really high. And like Jeff said, my hips are super open, and it gives me free mobility just to push straight down on the pedals.
That's a great point. Is when if you're riding a road bike, then make sure you move your hands. So you can move your hands to the hoods, you can move them to the corners, you can put them on the
Base.
crossbar. You want to move your hands around because it'll keep your shoulders and your elbows and your wrists loose. If you're riding a tri bike like Luke and I are, you can use the bull horns, you can use the pads to open up your hip angle a little bit more. You can just keep moving and keep changing your body position because it'll really help keep your back a little bit loose, and it'll also change the way you're using your leg muscles and keep from over fatiguing any one particular group or part of a muscle. So, great
Yep.
question, Holly. Anyone else? Dan, I know you've got a question. I mean, come
Well,
on.
I mean, so Jeff, earlier in the talk, when we were talking about that last 15 kilometers and heart rate coming down, with the hilly course in general, especially with extended climbs and extended descents, we're always trying to eat our nutrition on a schedule. But just to elaborate on that comment, in case it wasn't clear, there's an inverse relationship between heart rate and your ability to process calories. So when your heart rate is higher, it's very hard to process what's in your stomach. That makes sense, right? Whereas if you're out going for a walk, you can eat a sandwich, like you can do whatever you need to do. So be attentive to your schedule, but if it's like your timer's going off to take your gel and you're on that 16% grade that Alan was talking about, maybe
Yeah.
wait until your heart rate levels off a bit. And also, if you were looking at the course and you're doing a reconnaissance and you do see extended descents, you may be able to increase your intake a little bit more over what your planned hourly intake is, and be able to process a little bit more. But we're never going to be able to take in everything that we burn, but if you can get just a little bit more glycogen in and processed, you should be able to perform at just a slightly higher percentage of your threshold when you get out on the run.
It's a really valuable thing
And
that
then
Lance is saying, and it goes for any race you're in. If you're ever in a race where you're having trouble processing your calories, just backing off on your intensity and letting your heart rate drop a little bit is often all you need to do. So I tell my athletes all the time, especially for an Ironman, if you're in an Ironman and you start to feel your stuff is sloshing in your stomach, that generally means you've been putting out a too high an effort for your blood flow to go to your gut. And when you can reduce your effort, then your heart rate, then your blood flow will be restored to your gut and you'll start absorbing again. So it's a really good point, Lance. Thank you for bringing that up again. That's why he's the man.
yeah, I was just going to say, like Jeff said, it is going to be a much longer ride. So be prepared to obviously, you normally people say, "Oh, I take X amount of calories on the bike," but this bike is going to be probably at least 30 to an hour or even more, maybe longer than typical. So just be prepared for that.
Yeah, and I really wish we had highlighted that earlier. I think it's super important to call out because I've sort of internalized it and I kind of haven't spoken it out, and I'm glad you just pointed it out too. So I'm just going to echo what Luke said. Adjust your calorie plan for the extra. I mean, just assume it's an extra hour. Like I usually carry 2 bottles of calories and 1 bottle of hydration. I'm switching that to 3 bottles of calories. So I think everybody needs to prepare for more calories for a more longer ride.
and figure out what you're going to take and what you need, and then bring one extra gel
Yeah.
in case you drop it. Or here's another thing too. Heaven forbid if you ever get a flat tire or something like that, you're even going to be out there a little bit longer. So if something like that happens, you have mechanical, you need to stop for a minute rather than panic and go, oh, my heart rate's going to come down, potential absorption cycle here. So
Yeah.
maybe I can actually eat a little bit more while I'm sitting on the side of the road. I can be smart and crafty while I'm trying to fix whatever's going on.
Yeah.
I had one question I forgot. Since this is a two transition race, do you have to pack up your stuff? Because in other transitions, they're
No.
very far apart. Here, they're not far apart. So they
Yeah,
usually
I have to look at the flow. I haven't looked at it yet because, like I said, the guide just came out today. But the way it looked to me is you probably pack up your swim stuff and leave it in a bag where you were. You might drop it off, I'm not sure. But then the bike transition is literally right next to it. So when you come back for your swim
The
stuff,
run.
your run stuff's going to be in T2, which is right next door. And so I think everything will probably be together at the
It's
end.
not like they take your bag of your wetsuit and all that and bring it to the finish somewhere else. Everything's in one place.
I think it's all going to stay where it was because it looks like when I was looking at the athlete guide before, it suggested that you check your stuff out from transition.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking here, Jeff. It looks like you come in off the beach into T1, grab your gear bags. The change chairs are just after that, and then the bag drop is right after that, and then you have to run the length of transition without your bag.
Ah, okay.
So,
So there you go, Anna. That was what it was like in New Zealand last year. You basically grabbed your bag off of a rack, you put your stuff on, and then you ran to your bike. And last year we were allowed to clip our shoes. Oh no, we weren't.
But
We
you have
weren't
to put
allowed.
you put your wetsuit in a bag, or you can just leave it
You had
there.
to put your wetsuit into a bag and you just
Yeah.
gave them, you dropped your bag as you ran to your bike. There was a place to drop your bag and then
Oh,
they
I
put
see.
everything together at the end.
So you have to, and then okay, and your helmet's in your bike bag. It's not in the bike, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, everything. It's a clean transition.
Yeah.
But that's
So
why you go to the,
pack your transition bags in your hotel room and then practice dumping them out on the bed and see what happens to everything. Practice once or twice with your bags before race day to make sure that you're not trying to fish things out or figuring out how to get your wetsuit in your bag or that kind of thing.
but that, I was gonna say, that's also why you go to the athlete briefing, because they tell you exactly what you need
Yeah,
to do
yeah,
with
yeah.
all your
Yeah.
bags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
So
100%.
rather than us deciding here, like here, it's like, that's
Yeah.
the briefing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of races are different and they change things, so the briefing lets you know what you have to do.
Last
Yeah.
year they used reusable mesh bags, which was awesome, and I'm hoping that they do the same. No plastic bags, which was great.
Makes a souvenir too, right?
Yeah.
So,
No, they kept them.
oh, they took them back.
They took them
Oh,
back,
okay.
and that's why I'm hoping that we'll see them here and
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
they'll use
that's
them
great
again.
too. Yeah, that's great too. Yeah. All
The
right.
issue with those bags is if it rains
It's not gonna rain.
and
It's not gonna
they're
rain.
hanging
Yeah.
then your stuff
Well,
gets wet in
you're
those
wet.
bags.
You're wet if it's raining
Right.
anyway.
It'll
So.
be wet
I
anyway. Make
All
sure
right,
you
one
have
last question.
socks that don't give you blisters if they get wet.
Yeah.
You said it was cool at the beginning of the bike. Is it like do you need another layer or not? Or you get
No,
warm
no,
up?
I don't think
Yeah.
you will. Not
Okay.
not when you're climbing for the first,
yeah.
while.
no, I don't think you want another layer.
Okay.
No, but that being said, planning to pack and travel, bring cold weather gear just in case, because you never know if a front's
Yeah.
going to come in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
like, how many races have we been at where it's like, it's almost like a competition at the expo to buy the last jacket. Remember Juliet had to buy this like purple bike jacket at the St. George.
Yes, I
That
do.
crazy storm came in and suddenly it was like freezing cold.
Yeah.
I had
So
socks
definitely,
at
I always
Lake.
bring like toe covers. Always bring something really tight fitting that could be wind block. Just have it in your kit, just in case. You're probably not going to need it, but it's a good fail safe for the backup.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, hold on a sec, Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So thanks, Jeff. Thanks for putting this all together. I just want to really reemphasize to everybody who's watching this recorded, or you guys here, make an effort to come out to the team coffee on the ground live. Once we get there, once Jeff gives you the final information, That's because, I mean, it's fun to see everybody, of course, but it's also a last chance for us to exchange more on the ground knowledge, because once you're there, you're going to see things and observe things. So if we all put our heads together, we'll be all just a little bit better prepared. And it'll also be a last chance maybe to, you know, have a little bit of a confidence pep talk, or maybe a calm down pep talk or whatever. But mostly it'll be a lot of fun to see everybody live and in person. So make a point of coming. Thanks.
Absolutely.
Jeff.
Yeah,
Thanks, Luke and
absolutely.
Jeff, for putting this together. That was really, really great and helpful.